Hi, I'm Terry Bills, the Transportation Industry Manager here at Esri, and today I'm joined by Tom Brenneman, a Solution Engineer on our Transportation team. And a little bit later, we hope Gary Waters, the Sales Lead on our DOT Sales team, will be joining us as well. So we'd like to welcome you to another in a series of webinars designed for departments of transportation. Today's webinar is one of the more focused and specialized webinars that we've had. Roadway Reporter is an extension to Esri's Roads and Highways product. So I guess I should start out by pointing out that Roads and Highways is a prerequisite for Roadway Reporter. If you don't have Roads and Highways, that doesn't mean that you can't stay on the webinar, but it is a prerequisite for using Roadway Reporter. That said, what you'll see are the different ways that Roadway Reporter can make your reporting life easier, and it's really designed to allow you to easily generate a number of widely requested highway reports. Before we begin, let me point out that we are recording this webinar, and while everyone will be on mute, there will be time for question and answers at the end of the presentation. You can type your questions into the question box and we'll try to answer as many as time allows. Additionally, the slides which are part of this webinar will be available to you on the GeoNet group, Departments of Transportation. We'll give you the link at the end of the webinar. So most DOTs, whether you're a city, a county, or a state DOT, have to generate a large number of reports, often summarizing your mileage summaries or different attribute characteristics of your roadways. And in many cases, these are reports that have to be generated quickly and often many times over. So it was really to address these requirements that Roadway Reporter was originally developed. Taking advantage of the functionality of Roads and Highways, most agencies have already integrated their different event layers as part of their roadway inventory, and Roadway Reporter allows you to easily generate different types of reports for whatever event layers and whatever geography you'd like. So a selection dialog box allows you to easily select the desired geography, and then an attribute filter allows you to select the attributes you'd like to summarize in the report. There are really three different types of reports that Roadway Reporter can generate: mileage summary reports, roadway segment reports, and road or route log reports. And we'll briefly cover each of those before we jump into the demonstrations. The Roadway Reporter generates both tabular reports, maps, and other data products, and it can output to either PDFs, CSV files, or file geodatabases. And because it leverages web services, it can be integrated into your ArcGIS portal or ArcGIS organization to be consumed by any device. So presumably when that call to your executive director comes in wanting to know the number of lane miles of divided roadway in the state, he or she might actually even be able to answer that one on their own. Wouldn't that be nice? So it's probably the basic mileage summary report that's the most commonly used among DOTs. As mentioned, you can select based on any geography, by county, by any other geography, and then simply select whatever attributes you wish to summarize. So if you think about the number of times you've had to summarize roadways by functional class or similar characteristic, then you understand how easy the standard report generator really is. And instead of always having to generate a custom query to generate those reports, a simple selection tool easily walks you through the report generation, bringing these capabilities to the common user rather than to the GIS or database expert. Roadway Reporter generates not just the tables, but the maps based on the information, allowing you, the user, to interrogate the map and ultimately to drill down to individual roads for more detailed statistics. The next report is the road segment report. which takes full advantage of Roads and Highways dynamic segmentation capabilities. The report returns the roadway segments and measures for any selected set of event layers. So as you can see from the example for State Route 9 westbound, I can summarize the segments by AADT, IRI, surface type, and urban type. I think most of us have been in the situation where we have received a phone call wanting some specialized report. We can understand how much of this functionality of Roadway Reporter would have greatly simplified our jobs. But not only can we think about the specialized reports we could generate, but ultimately think about the tables and really the data sets that could be generated from this for use in business intelligence or other analysis tools. And as we'll see, this can be a nice way to create a dynamic data set for use in insights, and you can begin to see the value of these tools. The third and final report is the road or route log report, and in essence it generates a list of all of the assets as well as every event layer change as you traverse the road. These are most often used for maintenance or for field workers, and it lets staff locate events in the field as they drive the roadway. Most DOTs have generated route log books that they give to their maintenance and field crews, and this report makes that process straightforward and simple to run. So you'll notice that the data from the segment and road log reports are actually very similar to the data that you'd find in a standard straight line diagram, but without the straight lines. So the road or route log report is designed, much like the straight line diagram, to give the field worker a segment by segment and event layer by event layer view of the roadway when in the field. But with that said, I think it's probably the best. Let's go ahead and jump into the actual demonstration. And Tom, you want to take it away?
Sure. Thanks, Terry. Let's see. Which screen am I showing? That one. Okay. Terry, can you see my screen there with Indiana? Okay, great. Fantastic. All right. So I'll just go ahead and get started and give you a quick tour of the different report types and how you can configure those reports using the Roadway Reporter extension. You can see here it's web-based, so I'm in my web browser, and I've got all my bookmarks there on display, and under my reports there, I'm looking at the reports that I have for Indiana, and I have 3 different reports. For each of the 3 report types, I've got a road log, a mileage report, and a safety report. You can see I'm signed in, so I have this is all based on the sharing model of your portal, whether that portal is ArcGIS Online or Portal for ArcGIS. It's all based on that same sharing model. So when I create either report configurations or reports themselves, I can share them within that context. I can also share them publicly, especially my report, my final reports. So let's start off here. I've got report configurations. Report configurations are the kind of the makeup of the report. It's what you use to create and design your report. And then these are the results of those report configurations. So let's start off by looking at this mileage report. So I've got a mileage report by functional class, or county mileage report by functional class, and I can just go ahead and download it, and I go directly to the PDF. See, I've got county name over here, and this is calculations by functional class for each county. So pretty simple report, one that I'm sure a lot of transportation organizations have to create that kind of report. So I'll go ahead and walk through what it's like to create that report. So I'm going into the report configuration. You can see here that it shows me that when the last one was created, and I can download that report directly from here. I can run the report again. This would run the report directly from from the source data. So it would take the configuration, apply it to the source data. If the data has changed since the last time I built that report, then it would be updated, and I'd get a new output based on that updated data. Now let's go through, and I'll just edit this existing report to show you how you can configure one of these. So you can see here, this is all based on roads and highways, and in this particular data set for Indiana, I've got multiple linear referencing methods, so measurement systems, and I can choose the one that is appropriate. I choose an effective date, so if I want to make that today, I'll just do as of 5/24/17. I give it an output unit, so it's going to default to whatever the units of the data is. In this case, it's miles, but I can change that if I like, and then number of decimals and so forth. So there, the next step is to figure out which routes do I want to create my report on. And this is where Roadway Reporter is a little unique in how it can do the kinds of reports it can create, because it can actually use a spatial selection. So if I just wanted to drag a box and select all the roads and all the routes that touch that box, or completely within that box, or touch the edge of that box, I can use the spatial relationship of that box to those routes in order to define where the routes that I'm going to use for my report. This might be useful for, if I'm going to build a report just for the routes that impact this particular intersection. I might do something like that. The next way you can control the routes that are going to be included in the report is with just a simple query expression. So here you can see I have a query that says jurisdiction is not in one of those values. I'm going to go ahead and clear that out and just show you what it's like to build that. You don't have to know, the details of how to build SQL expressions like that one. You can just go through this query builder and click jurisdiction is equal to interstate, and then click OK. And if I want to add in another clause, I can add that in here and put in multiple that way. If you know the SQL, you can certainly put it in right here. I'll put in that SQL that I had there in the beginning, and we can use that to define what routes will be included in our report. Now, the report I showed you earlier was based off of county, but I'm going to change that now, and I'm going to do this based on DOT district. So when I choose DOT district, you see the map changes to show me the routes symbolized by the district that they're in. And I'm going to use, instead of created by, I'm going to use their district name to create the report. There we go. And I'm just going to click next there. So I just want to show you what it's like to make a modification. I can have 3 levels of groupings for the data. So if I wanted to do district and county, I could add in another summary field for county within the district if they were a subset, or if I wanted to do something else. But I'll just leave it as a calculation by district. And then I specify the fields that I want to include to calculate the values. So here you can see those are all my functional classification values there. I'll just click add fields, and you can see the different options that are available. If I want to, for example, do a report based off of median type, I could click unique values, and it'll pull in all the different median types, not created by, I'll go to the median type field. There we go. There's all my different median types, and then I could calculate the mileage within each one of those median types. I could also use range of values. So if I had something like median width, if I wanted to create summaries based on the width of the median within different areas, I could use something like that and add those in. I can also apply formulas. So if I wanted to do a formula to, instead of calculate the centerline miles for that, for each one of those fields, maybe I wanted to calculate the lane miles, I could use a formula here to convert that mileage to lane miles, assuming that I have lane data for those roads as well. But if you do, then it can multiply your length times your lanes to come up with lane miles for those calculations. You could also do VMT if you have your traffic volume data associated with this as well. So formulas can help allow you to do that, those VMT and lane mile calculations, and save those in the report. I'll skip over that. We already have our functional classifications. I'll just go ahead and leave that the same. And now I come to the report formatting section of configuring this report. And you can see there's all my fields in my report. Districts is down there at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and move that up to the top. I want that to be the first thing that people see, and I'll make that a little bit wider, maybe 1.1 inches for that. And I'll leave it as a PDF output. I can configure more things about the report itself. So, for example, I've kind of changed this to now, instead of Indiana county mileage, I might call this district mileage by functional class. And you can see other things like, you know, if I go over to table, you can see I'm highlighting alternate rows, and I can, you know, do a different highlight value for those alternating rows and all the kinds of just general report formatting, what's in the header, date and time stamp, and so forth. All of those options are available to you. And if everything looks good the way that you want, you can click next and then save this report, or you could just run it directly from here. When I click run, it's going to ask me, do I want to save the result of this back to the portal? I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that because I want to save this result. I just want to see the final report. You might also notice that there's an option here to email when the report is ready. So you can configure Roadway Reporter with your mail server, so that for these reports that might take quite a while to calculate, you can submit them, then go about doing whatever you're doing, and then when the report's done, you get an email with a link to the report, and then you can download that. This one's only going to take about 1.5 minutes to run, so I'm just going to go ahead and click OK to that and let that run. And while that's running, let me show you kind of what the result of that could look like. So here's an example. Here's an example of building a mileage report for Indiana using counties. I switched it to districts in that example, but this is kind of going back to that county mileage summary. And I'm here inside of Excel. I've downloaded the CSV for this, and you can see I've done lots of columns. So I've got columns for functional classification. That's these columns. Then I've got columns for the IRI, so the pavement scores. And I've got columns for the grade. There's all my grade columns. And those are those, the IRI and grade, those are those range calculations that I showed you. When you add in fields, that they could be a range calculation. You can see this, in this case, it's grade between 4.5 and 6.4. And then I've got columns for median type and so forth. So basically, I kind of went crazy on the different kinds of columns that you can add into this report. Now, right over here, you can see that this is some population for 2014 and 2019. For that, I just used our data enrichment capabilities that are in ArcGIS Maps for Office to add that to based on the county. So back there's the county name. Using that, I was able to add that population information. And that creates a single table that has all of that information. Using ArcGIS Maps for Office, I can, oh, there, my report's already done. It was a lot faster this time. I was able to share that out to my organization and create a map that looks like this. That allows me to click on a particular county and then see all that information that was in the spreadsheet, and have, you know, some charts here at the bottom that allow me to see the breakdown of, in this case, grade and IRI and functional class. But then I can also take that map and share it and configure something like the operations dashboard to show that exact same information. Now, I'm throwing some different things at you here, but the point I want to make is that these mileage summaries you know, on their face, they can be just a simple PDF, but if you download them as a CSV, you can manipulate that, compile lots of different data, and share it back to the ArcGIS platform, and come up with more meaningful information products like this operations dashboard that allows you to click on each county and kind of see the overall values for each one of these calculations. Now, this is a kind of dashboard that you could share with a wider audience that just wants to understand what's happening with the population over 5 years and what's going on with the calculations for our existing roadways in each of these areas. Now, my stalling techniques worked perfectly. You can see there's a link to view the report, and you can see I've got my different highlighting values that we set up there. I've got a different title up there, Indiana districts for mileage, and I've got now mileage summaries for each DOT district within this report. So that's kind of how you can go through and configure, in this case, the mileage report and run that report on some data. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to show you a couple of different report types just so you can see the other ones. The next one is a road log report. I'll open that one up, download that. This is what a road log report looks like. It's basically, and actually I think I've got a better looking version than that. If I go into the road log here, let's download that latest version. There we go. That's a little bit better formatted. I've got a route ID and a measure, and it's kind of like that straight line diagram concept that Terry was talking about. If you can visualize a straight line diagram for a section of road, as you walk down that straight line, you'll see different things at different measures along that on the report, and that's what you see here. So for this particular route ID, we start at measure 0. The median is unprotected there. It starts there, and that median of unprotected goes to 1.173, where it then changes to a median positive barrier, and that ends at 1.263. But after that start at 0, then we've got a mile marker at 0.552, and then an attenuator at 1.163. So you can see you can configure this report for whatever data that you want to include, including intersections. That's probably one thing that I should have added to this report is intersections that I see in a lot of these road log reports, so that people in the field can come to a particular intersection and see what the measure is at that intersection, and then know how far they have to go to find perhaps a particular attenuator or guardrail or something like that along the route. The configuration for this road log report is pretty similar. So this first part, you can see it's going to ask you for the date for the report. I'll put that in, and the measurement system and units and all that's the same. And this filtering, I could do spatially. This is all the same. The same thing for filtering based on SQL. This part's quite a bit different. So here, I basically get a list of all the attributes that I have in my linear in roads and highways, and then I can choose what I want to include in those. So, for example, I forgot those road intersections. If I want to add the road intersections in, I can specify the intersection name here and maybe put in a prefix for it that says street intersection, and then now the report will have street intersections in that report. So that's what it looks like. You just choose a particular data value, or in this case, I clicked on reference post here, and you can see under the post name, I've got mile, and that so that you can see that it's a mile post for that. And the same thing for median. If I look in the configuration for median, you can see I've got start and end and median. And if you go back to that report, you see it says start, median, positive barrier. So you have median is in front of each of the data values, but you have start and end to indicate when that particular linear event starts and ends for that particular report. All right, so that's what the configuration looks like, and the rest of this is exactly the same. You configure the PDF. You can run it here. One thing I didn't show you before is that you can save this report configuration into your portal, and this is where you do that. You give it a configuration name, a description, and then you choose where you want to save that. I've already saved one here, but I'll just go ahead and save it again. It'll ask me, do I want to replace that? Sure. And now that report configuration, the next time I run it, will have intersection information in that report as well. The last report type that I have to show is the segmentation report. And I've got one already downloaded here. I could download it just like the others. I could download it right here. But in this case, this is I ran a segmentation report for the entire state, and this was what came out of that. Now, a segmentation report will look at all of the data values within roads and highways, and it will break the segments up based on all the unique combinations for the data that you specify in that report. So you can see I've got the route ID here, I've got the measure information, and then I've got functional class, grade, slope, lane divided, number of lanes, all of these columns. If any one of these changes, I get another record in this with the measurement information for that. So I get a unique combination of all these data values based on this linear referencing information here. So that's what the report looks like. Let's dig into the configuration of that. Again, everything in roads and highways is time aware, so you're going to specify an effective date for this report. And then you specify the query information. This is just like it was before. In this case, I was doing it on the entire network, so I don't have any filters on this. This is just all of the roads. And this is where you specify all of those columns that you want to include. And this, I did county, district, facility type, functional class, each one of these. And then within that data set, you can specify what columns you'd like to include in that report. And once you get done with that, that's the report that gets generated. You specify the formatting. In this case, I specified the output to be CSV, so these lengths don't really mean much, but the order of the columns will be specified we'll show you what the order comes out here in the final spreadsheet. And then if you're happy with that, all the report formatting is, it's kind of similar stuff based on this report type, and everything is the same here. I can click run, I can save that report, and so forth. Now, the segmentation report is an interesting one because I think the main reason, or one of the main reasons this exists, is to be able to pull out specific data values that you're interested in analyzing into another system. So maybe pulling them into, in this case, Excel, and then maybe doing some pivot tables on median type and number of lanes, and maybe evaluating the average IRI within each district or something like that. By having all these unique rows for all of the data, it gives you the ability to do additional analysis on this data. And recently, with this last 10.5 release, we included a new product for doing that kind of analysis called Insights for ArcGIS. So I'd like to just take a quick minute to show you kind of how you can take data that is in this format and use it inside of Insights for ArcGIS to kind of get a better understanding of that data. So I'm going to go into Insights. This is a different web-based application, all based off of 10.5 Enterprise. And I'm going to create a brand new workbook. And within that, it's going to ask me for what data that I want to include. And I've got data that I've uploaded, data that's been shared within my organization, and an Excel file. So you can see I've got this Excel file here. I'm going to go ahead and just take that Excel file. There it is right there is my segmentation report. And I'm just going to drag and drop it into the browser there. Now what's happening is that entire Excel spreadsheet is being uploaded into the portal, and Insights is going to open up that spreadsheet, understand the different pages that are within it. If I have different sheets within that worksheet, it'll figure out all the sheets that are in there and present those to me as different data types that I can work with. And you can see here that all I did was I took that, downloaded that CSV, saved it as an Excel spreadsheet. It's about a 39 megabyte Excel spreadsheet, so it's going to take it a little bit to upload there. If we go back over into Excel and take a look at this, you can see that, let's see if I come over here, it's got about 500,000 records, 565,806 records for the entire state across all of these data values. So I'm looking at, like I said, median type, IRI, rutting. I have some speed information in there, and I also have some district and county name. In fact, I'll use that later. I'll use that county name to actually show a location for that data. So I'm still stalling until that gets completely uploaded there. So just look at this data a little bit more. This is the thing about uploading data and on a live webcast. You've got to be patient and let it do its thing. But it is uploading almost 40 megabytes worth of data into it, and it's a lot for Insights to then open up and evaluate what's in that data. But that's where I'll go ahead and take that and then be able to slice and dice it however I want. So there we go. I've stalled long enough. I've got one data set loaded there. I'll click OK, and then it's going to add that data into my Insights workbook. Now again, just like within the Roadway Reporter, you can see I'm signed into the organization in Roadway Reporter. I'm also signed into my organization here in the within Insight. So it's the same environment that you're working in as far as your identity throughout the system. So you could access items and share them around your organization. But once that data has been loaded into this worksheet, then I can go ahead and start working with it. And I can just work with it in a tabular sense here by just saying, well, let's start off by looking at the data table. So there's all of my data for the 500,000 rows or so that I've got in there. One of the things that this didn't give me was a length field. So if I wanted to do some calculations that included length, I could maybe put in a calculated field. Insights allows you to do these kind of field calculations, and I can just do a simple calculation where I take the to measure and I subtract the from measure. And that'll give me my overall length in miles for this particular data set. And if I want to add in another calculation for lane miles, well, here I'll give it, the field name is lane miles. I could calculate number of lanes times length. Now I could have done these same calculations in the mileage report, but I just wanted to kind of show you that this is one of the strengths of a segmentation report, is you can take it out, put it into a system like Insights, and do whatever calculations you want on it. In this case, I'm calculating the lane miles for each one of those segments. And the benefit of that is I could take something like functional class, and now my new columns for lane miles, and drag that in and create a chart of my lane miles throughout the state by functional class. So I can start to work with this data in a purely tabular sense. I could take the same thing and maybe instead of creating a chart, I create a table with the summary information for each one. There we go. Or if I want to start working with this spatially, which this is an Esri webinar, so we got to work with spatial data. I'm going to add in my my Indiana counties. I'm going to just search for Indiana. There's Indiana county boundaries. I'll add that into the map. This is just some spatial data that's been registered with my portal here. So now I've got counties and I've got my segmentation report, and that segmentation report has a county field in it. What that means is I can go in and I can create a relationship between my segmentation report and my county boundaries. And you can see that Insights automatically picks up that they both have a county name field. So if I just take that, it will establish a relationship between those two. And what I end up with is a data set that will have all my calculations, but it'll also have the county location associated with it as well. So I'll go ahead and remove that. I'll add that location. I'll just create a map of those counties. There we go. And I'll just use a simple symbol there with a transparency, something like that. Okay. And now within each one of those, I can say, all right, well, what's the functional class? I'll do the same kind of summaries. So I'll do functional class by, whoops, do that, functional class and lane miles. I'll drag that over here. I'll create a chart. And then I might do, let's see, what other ones that I want to do? Number of lanes would be my number of lanes, and I'll change that to a string. I'll take number of lanes, and I'll just do my overall length for that number of lanes, and I'll do a summary over here. Looks like that functional class. Let me try that functional class one more time. I'll do functional class by lane miles. There we go. That's better. And for number of lanes, I've got my center line miles there. And I might take my urban rural there, and I'll do my length by that, and I'll put that right down here. Maybe as just do a different chart type. I'll do a bubble chart. So there we go. We've got, based on my entire state, I've got an interactive chart that allows me a map that has all of the counties in them, and I've got the breakdown of mileage by lane, functional class, and urban rural. But then I can go into this and start doing some filters. So if I just want to show this report for one particular county, I'll do this based on, maybe I'll do Marion. That's where Indianapolis is downtown. I'll apply that, and everything will update based on that filter. So my map will just show me Marion County, and then I get the breakdown in each one of these areas. I'll change this one to a table so you can see that summary table as well. So you get this report that shows all this information for that particular county, and the same thing is true for, if I were to change this to a different county type like Adams, everything would update downstream. So it's pretty easy to take that segmentation report that came out of Insights and use it in something like, that came out of Roadway Reporter, and use it in something like Insights for creating more of an interactive report with all the information for that particular with that particular report type. And I'd say that's maybe a little bit more compelling and easy to communicate than sharing with somebody an Excel file that looks like this. So it's just kind of a richer experience for working with that data. And with that, I think I'll turn it back over to you, Terry. That concludes my demonstration, and maybe we can open it up for questions.
All right, thanks, Tom. And actually, I think that last example, I hope everyone understands and can kind of see where you really could take that. I mean, that really opens up a whole range of possibilities in terms of being able to really dig into your data and present it in really very rich and robust ways. So let's, as we mentioned, you can ask questions just by typing in into the question box. And we'll start off, the first question out of the box is the $64,000 question. Do you have a template for the HPMS reporting?
Good question. Really, the HPMS reports, I mean, the simple answer is no, there's not a template within Roadway Reporter for HPMS reporting. But what we do have is on our Resource Center, or actually on GeoNet. If you go out to the Departments of Transportation link on GeoNet, we do have links to generating the HPMS reporting, the outputs for the the formats. Thanks, Gessie. Gary's on the line here. Those HPMS report formats that you can apply to your roads and highways data. Those are pretty fixed reports, so it doesn't really need a whole lot of kind of interactive configuration of those reports. But those are exposed as geoprocessing models that you can configure for your data.
We do also have the schema for the HPMS database. So if your typical process is to load data from all of your contributing business systems that provide HPMS required fields, you can load them into that schema and then configure these output file formats which produce the pipe delimited, the actual files that you have to submit to the feds.
Okay, and let me also mention, if, as with any Esri product, if there are additional reports, other types of reports that you'd like to see us develop, please just let us know, and we do respond to those. Next question had to do with, can you export a hard copy or digital copy of each county with each card, really sort of like a map book? Yeah,
the way you could do that right now, there's a print capability on each one of those on that page. It's not something you can automate at this time, so you'd have to export those one at a time as you go. But you could absolutely do that. It would take a little bit for the 90-some counties we have here in Indiana, but it certainly is something that is possible.
You know, that's always been something that most DOTs actually generate, are the route log books. So that may be something to consider for the future. Yep. Next question: how much pre-processing of the data do you have to do for the summarization reporting purposes?
Really, I mean, as far as generating those reports, the beauty of the Roadway Reporter system is that it can connect directly to your roads and highways event data. So for all of that event data, you don't have to do any additional processing on that. Now, with that said, there are some data sets. So in the example that I used there, I did a segmentation report that included county. And that county is an event that's in the roads and highways environment, or roads and highways database. Now, if that's not an event that you maintain in your system, ArcGIS can generate that event for you from just polygon data. There's a locate features on Route Tool that'll create that event. And for folks that want to do things like that, where they generate their events for use within these reports, there would be some pre-processing that would be involved. But that might be for a publication environment. Perhaps you'd have a roads and highways database in a publication environment, that you'd have periodic processes that would go through and do things like create events for data like polygon data like counties or districts or something like that, so that it can be used within that environment. But your every day-to-day transactional events that you're working with, they can stay exactly the way that they are and be used directly in this environment.
Yeah, I was gonna add to that. I would almost look at Roadway Reporter as a pre-configuration tool itself, or a pre-processing tool itself. The output that you might use from it, whether it's a segmentation or a mileage summary report, could actually be some of that pre-processing of data that you might use in another tool to expose in a different way.
All right. Another question. In one of the reports, Tom, that you'd produced, you had route, measure, and the medians, and says, had you considered adding a method that is more human understandable than a measure? So, the different, whether milepost or route and offset. So can you talk about the different ways that you could, the measure values that you could generate in the reports?
The reports, that's a good question. So, and I think human readable, that, I think it's specifically talking about an offset from some known location, like 50 feet north of mile marker 5 or something like that. And, there's a couple ways to look at that. One is, by the way that report actually works, if you include those mile markers in that report with the measure information of where those mile markers are, then it's very easy for someone to figure out what the distance is from that mile marker to whatever asset that they're looking for. On the other hand, roads and highways does allow you to store offset information from features. So if you were to generate your events to include offsets from a known location, you could include that attribute in the report, so that in addition to the measure, it might have some more descriptive information about where that is based on an offset from some known location.
All right, and other questions? Gary, you want to jump in and how you've seen various DOTs using the Roadway Reporter?
Probably from my perspective, the most interesting thing I think I've heard about Roadway Reporter is the prevalence or the widespread use of the road log report. I've had quite a few DOTs say that the road log report, simply that listing of events sorted by the measure value, was one of the most popular reports in the entire organization, because it went out to all the field people, so they knew when they were looking at something in the field what the measure value was nearby to them. And I just never really imagined that would be the most popular report. But it was the sheer number of people that are out in the field using that report that made it so popular. And it's also kind of interesting because most of the time we're trying to help automate what those people are doing, not looking at a printed report. So I don't know, it was just an observation of maybe an interesting observation to see from the technology.
So let's see, another question. Can you report measures on dual LRS networks?
Dual LRS networks. You can report if you have multiple LRS networks, so or linear referencing methods within your roads and highways environment. You can choose, and I kind of went over it really quickly in the demonstration, but one of the first things you choose in the configuration of the report is the measurement system that you want to use. And in that case, I had two LRS networks, county log and state log, that I could choose for that report, and I chose county log. But the system automatically takes care of translating the measures to whatever LRS network you choose. So in this case, Indiana maintains all of their events on the county log, in the county log system. But if you choose state log, it'll automatically translate those events over to the state log for the report.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we've come to the end. So again, we list a number of the resources here in front of you. These slides will be made available to you. Gary, I think you have operators standing by to take orders. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
anyway,
1-800 call Gary.
That's all right. So again, we'd like to thank everyone for participating today, and if any additional questions, send them in and we'll be happy to answer them. And as I said, these slides will be posted in the GeoNet Department of Transportation site, and we look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. All right, thank you.
And they're also it's also recorded, right, Terry? So
correct.
You can see a recording of it. Yeah.
It is. Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.